Hello everyone, Ed with Slow Car Fix. Today I'm going to be doing some work on my 1966 Corvair Corsa, and one of the jobs I'm going to do is probably my least favorite Corvair job. Stick with me and check out what I've got to do to get this thing ready for the road. Okay, this is not a 66 Corvair Corsa. It's not what I'm working on today. That also is not. This is. So the Corsa was made in 1965 and 66. It came with a 140 horse or a 180 horsepower option. This one is an Oshawa built car. I believe it's one out of 682 that were built in Oshawa that were Corsa coupes. This one's Aztec bronze. It's a pretty good car. I just got it not long ago. I've wanted it for a while. I really like it, but it needs a few things. Now, it was safety checked. Everything's cool there. But one of the things I noticed is that the fuel gauge isn't working. The sender may or may not be working, or maybe bad ground. But I noticed the filler neck is, the rubber part is swelled and cracked and leaking. So I have to fix that. I also have to fix a typical Corvair problem. See this shiny spot on the axle shaft. The heater hose, people don't ever shorten these when they install them. They have to be shortened. You can't just get the ones from Clarkson and install them. Or they rub on the drive shaft. So I got to do that. Also have to do an oil change. And just sort of get it ready for it. It's safe. It's been deemed safe. But I have a couple of little things that I have to do that are just maintenance stuff, including my least favorite, which is replace the fuel tank. This one has a giant dent in it. Also looks like it has a welded in patch. This is an electric fuel pump and filter. I noticed these lines are kind of cracked. They aren't leaking, but what is leaking, I think is leaking, is the upper line, which I will show you later. But this is a pain. It's not a pain to get the tank out. It's not a big deal. And really I'm complaining about a job that isn't that hard. But I've done a lot of work on these cars, and this is just kind of the one that's a pain to do by yourself. So to do this, you have to remove the sway bar on anything 64 and later. 60 to 63 doesn't have a front sway bar. So 64 and later, you have to remove the sway bar. You pretty much plan on replacing these bushings. Maybe I'll grab a light. There, let's shed some light on the subject. So you pretty much have to plan on replacing these bushings because they're always shot. These bolts, in my experience with cars that are from Canada, this one's kind of bent, but with cars that are from Canada, plan on replacing them. That they'll probably snap when you go to take them off, which is fine. You have to open these clamps up, swing the sway bar out of the way, undo the filler neck, that is the hard part. That's the pain in the butt by yourself. Pull the left front wheel. There's a vent hose, which is a smaller hose. I believe it's like, I can't remember what size. We'll see. And then the filler neck hose itself. So they're a pain to line up yourself. So also, when I thought I was being smart and thought maybe it's just out of gas, I put $50 worth of fuel in it. So it's got fuel in it. So I have to drain it. So that's going to be fun. I've been checking this just to see what's going on here, to see if that's what's causing the sender to go. But when I start seeing welded patches and stuff on a tank, yeah, it's not happening. I'm not doing that with any of my cars. So other than that, this car is a pretty good car. It's pretty solid underneath. Front end's all been done. Engine and trans has been rebuilt. Engine diff and trans have been rebuilt. Flex lines are good, brake lines are good, all that stuff. Like I said, it passed safety check. I had to put new tires on it, which is fine. I did originally buy 185 60 14s, and now I've gone to 205 70 14s. Yeah, so I will show you what I have for parts. Fortunately, the majority of them came with the car, so that's handy. Okay, fortunately, the previous owner had planned on doing this job, I believe, because he provided me with a new tank that's been pour 15. This is the hose for the filler neck. This is a new tank strap that's been pour 15. New J-bolts, sender lock, clamps, all that good stuff in there. I also have, these didn't come with the car, but these are, I had them in stock. They're Clark's part. These are the front sway bar bushings, so I'll replace them while I'm there. I've got a couple of good used, gently used senders. Here, if I test that one and it's no good, it should have a 90 ohms range, so I'll have to check it and see. I do have one of these. This one says 90 ohms. The early Corvairs are different. This one's an early Corvair one because it doesn't say 90 ohms on it, and it's like a 0 to 30 or 0 to 40 or something like that. So I have to do that. But the first thing I got to do is get the fuel out of it, which I'm not looking forward to. It's going to make a mess. What I typically do, and I don't have my fuel clamps, I lent them out. But what I would typically do is undo this line from the sender, clamp it off, get an extension line. Actually, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Get a long piece of whatever that is, 3/8 hose, run it down to a fuel can, have another one there just in case. So 2 fuel cans, some 3/8 hose, crimp this off, slide the clamp back, and then do a quick off and on with the other hose. I don't really have any better way to do it. So that's kind of what's going to happen here. As I mentioned, I got to pull the right front wheel, left front wheel. I keep calling it the right front wheel because it's on my right side. Left front wheel to get at the filler neck. But the first thing I got to do is drain the tank, move the sway bar out of the way, and then I can start looking at the filler neck stuff. Okay, so fortunately with this setup, I was able to be a little smarter than I'd like to be. A little smarter than I'd like to be, maybe a little smarter than I usually am. Because it has this fuel filter here, I clamped this with my special fuel clamp. And yes, I have one, but I've lent it out. I clamped that, blocked the flow, undid this filter from this line, connected a hose to it, and it's going down to my can. And I got to keep an eye on that can because I don't know what's in that, because the gauge wasn't working. Then obviously this drip, drip, drip is just a little bit that's residual in this fuel pump. This is also a filter, so I'm not really sure how many filters does one need. So this is the pump, the electric pump. This is the filter that came with the electric pump. I believe this is just like an Airtex 1 to 4 PSI pump. I've installed lots of those. I didn't put this one on this car, but I've installed lots of them before. It's a few things I don't really like about the way it's installed that I might correct. Sometimes I make it like a skid plate that goes over here, but this car has lots of ground clearance, so I probably won't worry about that. It does have an inertia switch and all that stuff, which I typically don't install in these things, but it's in this car, so I'm not going to take it out. So I just have to wait for this to drain. It's going through the filter, and I have to wait. Oh, hey. Wait and let it fill that can. So while I'm doing that, I'll gather some of my other stuff. I'm going to replace a bunch of this fuel hose because I don't like it. This stuff, this is 3/8. I'm not sure what this is. I can't remember. So I'll have to look and see what I've got stock here. And then I can slide the sliding jack forward and start pulling the front wheel. But I think I'll just let it drain for a while. Okay, so I'm on my second tank. It's still draining. Front wheel is off. That hard line in there, that's the fuel filler. It helps when you pull the cap off too, because then it'll vent right through. Gets a little air behind the fuel, pushes it out. So I filled one can. Hopefully I don't fill more than one, but I have my vice grips handy in case I need to crimp that line quickly. Jack is supported and locked. Wheel is off, obviously. So yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. The hard part is to reconnect the filler neck when you're putting the new tank back in. That's the pain, and that's not what I'm looking forward to by any means. Yeah, so I'll gather some tools and get ready to drop these sway bar bolts and get ready to drop this tank. Okay, as expected, the bolts on the sway bar, they snapped right off. Just a little bit of force on them to undo them, and they snapped right off. That's typical for these. I don't really remember that ever happening. I don't remember ever being able to do that without that happening. So what I'm going to do is I pry those open. Let me grab some tools. Let you look at the ceiling. And she was full. I had to go get another can. So she was pretty full. And then obviously made a mess. Good thing is fuel evaporates. So I don't do any hot work on this side. So it's not really a problem. So what I do is I separate this. And yes, I have had these break before. It happens. I've had to re-weld them. It's not my favorite thing because you have to remove the clamp altogether. But I find this way is the easiest way to drop the sway bar down. So pry them open, and you get a little one of these guys. And I can't really do it one-handed, but no, I can't do it one-handed. So I will do this and then show you what it looks like, and then you have to undo these clamps and you can just take the sway bar right off. And then you have to do that to get these rubbers off anyways. So I'll do that and show you what that looks like. Okay, sway bar is removed. Kind of looks a little, no, that's the way they're supposed to be. It's bent on both sides. The outer bushings actually look okay. The inner bushings are kind of a little something, a little crappy. So I'll cut those off probably, and then I usually just spray it with some lubricant and slide the new ones on. As mentioned, every bolt snapped. So now this may be a Canadian car thing, I don't know, but I've sprayed these endlessly with penetrating oil and all that stuff, and it's never really helped. They always just snap. They're just a small bolt, so they just snap off. So I've got to knock them out of these clamps. These are the clamps that hold it right here, and then I've got to knock these guys out of here. Just a hammer and a drift. Not a big deal, but I'm going to carry on with the fuel tank. It's drained now, so I can probably take this line off altogether. And then this hose, I'm not sure if you guys can see, there is a hose there you go. There's some hoses up there. One's all swelled up and crappy. The other one is not as bad from what I can tell from here, but I've got to get up there and get that clamp. Ideally, if you had like a transmission jack, it'd be helpful. I don't have that. Or if you were doing it on the ground and just use a floor jack, that'd be helpful. Yeah. So I'm going to, I think what I do is when I put it back in, I put the hose on the tank and then put it on the sending unit, or on the sending unit, on the filler neck after, but I can't remember. I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute. But next thing I gotta do, I guess, is undo that hose, drop this clamp out of the way, take this hose off of here, and get ready to drop that tank out. It comes out straight at the bottom. Okay, so I haven't concluded anything, but this here, I'm in the wheel well, by the way. You can see the two hoses there, the two hose clamps where they join. So it looks like previously this has been installed where they've done the hoses on the tank and then you do the fuel filler neck second. Fortunately, I don't have to remove the whole filler neck, which is kind of fun. So I just need a ratchet, quarter drive ratchet, and I forget what size that is, like a 5/16 or something, to take that take those clamps off, and that should free the tank from the filler neck, hopefully. And like I said, the fun thing is trying to get that back on, because I have to get my hands in there to do that. And it's a wrist slicer, so I will do that. I can't remember if there was a trick to doing where you have the big hose on the tank and the little hose on the filler neck, and then you make them work, but I can't remember, so I'll just have to guess. So the next thing I need to do is to take that, undo that, and get that off there. I did disconnect the ground on the sending unit, pull the line off the sending unit. Now would be a good time to knock the sending unit out, but I'm going to knock it out when I'm on the ground, when it's on the ground, and I'll just have to hold it. I don't have the proper tool. There is a tool for removing and reinstalling the lock ring for the sending unit. I don't have one. I don't know why. Probably because I don't like to do this job. So why would I make it easier on myself? All right, I'm going to go and go ahead and try and get my hands into this little thing here and try and get that hose out, and then maybe I'll get you guys watching me while I struggle to get the tank out of position. Okay, so the tank is out. This is what was leaking. You can see it's all swelled and cracked and stuff. And I have a new one of them. This is just regular 1/2-inch fuel line, I think. So I've got that because I just used it. The other thing that I didn't like about this tank that I mentioned, like overall it doesn't look in bad shape. This is some of the anti-squeak that's left over, which I have to put some on the new tank. What I didn't like about this tank was the big giant dent here, and if you look, this square is a patch. I'm not a fan of patching gas tanks, especially when you can get a new one. The new ones for these, they're actually made in Quebec, Canada, and they're made by Spectra. And they ship them to the States, and then we have to buy them back, which is kind of interesting. But anyways, they're not really that much money as far as fuel tanks go. There's the sender, the lock ring. So I'm going to knock that out while it's on the ground. I'll test this sender and make sure the sender's good. If not, I've got other ones that I've tested that are good. The ground is still on here, which is good. A lot of the times this ground tab will just snap off. One of my other ones that I've got over there behind me that I've tested and is good, is all good except for the ground is snapped off. But I'll check this one out. I'll check the sock inside when I pull it out. There is some crap in the tank. So let's look at what else we got here. So he's got this loop-de-loo of fuel line here. Not sure how I feel about that. What's the date of that fuel line? 98. So I'll see how much fuel line I have. I might just replace that because it's a good while you're in there. Another thing to do, to look at is, see there's a couple of screws here that are sticking through. One time with my yellow 65 that I had, that I restored, I put a ground screw through here for my radio and went right into the fuel tank. Dummy. Other thing you can check while you're here is this is like the only time you can get at these fuel lines, or sorry, brake lines. If they're cruddy at all, now is the time to replace them because they clip in above the tank. Fortunately, these ones are pretty good. I think when I was just trying to get that out, the problem I was having was this adhesive on this anti-squeak stuff. As you can see, here's the filler neck that I was talking about. So what I'll do to make it a little easier on myself is I will be careful on the orientation of the clamps so I can tighten them through that hole in the wheel well. Like I said, it's not a terribly difficult job, but it's just annoying. I don't know why I have a new strap, why he bought a new strap for this car, but this one's fine, but that other one is pretty, so I will use it. And he's got new J-bolts. I guess he was expecting that sometimes these snap when you go to, like anything else, when you go to work on it, sometimes they just snap right off. So, tank is out. Now I have to switch modes to prepping to reinstall the new tank. And I'll see if I got some fuel line to replace that line just sort of while I'm in there. It doesn't look bad, but when I see it, like it's important when you look at anything rubber, like your flex lines or, you know, like your brake flex lines or anything like that. If you see date codes on it and they look old, even if it's not cracked, you know, should replace it. Should consider replacing it anyways. So this is not cracked. This part is, but this is not cracked. The only thing that was leaking, I think, was just that filler neck. But like I said, this is date coded 98. So if I have enough of that, whatever that is, 1/4 inch fuel line, I'll just change it. Then I don't have to worry about it. One less thing to worry about. The car's in pretty good shape. Sometimes these cross members rot right out on these cars. This one's pretty good. Floor's good, original pans. It's a pretty good car. I'm happy. So far, happy. All the front end stuff is new. It looks like the shocks are maybe original. Or not original, but they're old. So that might be a down the road, but I didn't notice any ill handling characteristics while I was driving it. But all the front end is new, ball joints upper and lower. It's just a good time to look at everything when you're under here screwing with stuff. So I'll start getting this other tank prepped. I have some sound deadening left over from my 57 truck that I'm going to use as the anti-squeak. Clark's does sell a kit that's, by anti-squeak I mean, you put it here, so this tank doesn't rub on the body and make a squeaking noise, because they do that. I like to put it on the top side, like anywhere where it's going to contact the body, and I also like to put it where the strap rests. So I have some leftover stuff from my 57 truck, and I will put that on there. So cool thing I discovered on this tank, this is a GM tank. So this isn't a Spectra aftermarket tank like I usually get. This is looks like a new old stock tank. So that's kind of cool. So it should fit, imagine that. And then he's just painted it with Pour 15. Now, this is that sound deadening I was talking about. What I'm going to do is, while I have the two tanks side by side, I'm going to look and see where that tank may have contacted the body. Like I can see there's a little bit of corrosion here where it looks like that was rubbing the body. So anywhere where I think that it had touched the body, I'm going to put some of this foam tape stuff. This Noico, whatever it is. It's Amazon special sound deadening. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, just make sure I've got ample coverage everywhere. It doesn't hurt. It goes on nice and easy. And then, like I said, where the strap sets, I'll put some either on the strap or on the tank where the strap sits, just as like an insulator. This is also when I'm going to decide which sending unit I'm going to use. And what I will do is, because I know that tank fit, and I know those hoses, that hose length was right, I will measure the hose length, maybe go just a touch longer, like 1/8 of an inch longer than what's on that tank. And that's what I'll put on this tank, and I'll try and have the right amount sticking out, so that way I know that worked, So if I go with that length and make sure that they're sitting in the right spot and everything else, and as long as I make it roughly like the one that I just pulled out, probably should go back in, one would think, right? I took the little cardboard protector out of the hole, shook the tank just to make sure there's nothing in there. Just had a quick look inside. It's a brand new tank, so it's fine. So I'll keep going with this, and then I got to knock that sender out and decide which sender I'm going to use. Okay, so I've tested a sending unit, I've installed the sending unit, I've installed the lock ring the wrong way with the hammer and screwdriver. As I mentioned, there's a proper tool for this. I don't have it. So, but what you want to see is you want to see that these tabs, these little tabs here, are up against where their respective spots are. And this tab, there's a tab here and a tab here on the sending unit. So the sending unit can go one of two ways. It can go the right way or the wrong way. This is the right way, I believe. And saying that, I probably screwed it up. You can tell by the orientation of which the hose is going to go. If the hose is pointing up, then obviously it's not the right way. So this is, yeah, that's the right way. Because there's the filler neck. That's pointing down, just like how I took that other one off. So now I've got to cut the hoses to match, put a little more anti-squeak on the bottom side of the tank, and yeah, I'm gonna have to lengthen this wire, but that's okay. I have the technology to do that. And then, as I mentioned, I'm gonna replace that hose if I have enough hose laying around. So the next thing I'm gonna do is just go and throw some hose on this. Hose everywhere. Do I have enough mess going on here or what? So, fuel line. Guess what? I don't have the right size. So, I was eyeball measuring. This line, which came off my fuel pump and comes off the sender, it's the same size, it's 5/16. I don't have any 5/16. This line, coming off here and going to the filler neck, is 1/2 inch. I don't have any 1/2 inch. So, I guess it's lunchtime. One could reuse all this crap, but this job, as I mentioned before, is kind of an exercise, and it's going to take up a couple hours of my time. So why do I want to do it again? I don't want to do it again. This hose here, this big hose, is I cut it off there, but it's 1 3/8. So that's kind of handy to know. This guy should be 1/2 inch, because this is 3/8. This is 3/8, this is 3/8, and this doesn't go on. I sort of remember it being 1/2 inch, but it's been a long time since I've done this job. So that's fine. This one's the pain in the butt. This one is the one that you can't really get locally, at least around here. I can't get it locally quickly. They have to bring it in. So I'm fortunate that this one came with it. It's a special type of hose. I don't know what's special about it. It's probably vulcanized or something. It's Gates. This is a Gates hose. Fortunately, dude gave me enough for 2. So I'll hang on to this for, I don't know. 64 has a new tank. Rampy has a new tank. That 65's tank I don't think is old. But anyways, I'll hang on to it anyways, because these, because they get like this. And all punky and spongy crap. So I guess it's lunchtime. I guess I'll go get some lunch. I have my Sunday jeans on, as you can tell. I'll go take the truck and get some lunch and get some hose, pick up some hose. And yeah, so I need, what do I need? 1/2 inch and 5/16 hose. So I'll probably get like, just so I have it around, I'll probably get 3 feet each. Maybe I'll get like 4 or 5 feet of that 3/8 type stuff, and just like 3 feet of the 1/2 inch or whatever, and that should be good. Before I get carried away, I will measure that and make sure that that's 1/2 inch, but I'm pretty sure it is. It only makes sense. If 3/8 doesn't fit, well, guess what? It's going to be 1/2 inch. Yeah, I have another one of those inline filters, but I don't think I think I'm gonna get rid of that because there's stones in the carburetor that were always good enough. There's a sock in the tank. That fuel pump has a little filter. Like, how many filters do I need here? I could see though that you might want it with this tank because this tank was full of crap. So this tank is going to go in scrap. Lots of people will rattle these things around with chains inside. I've done that. I played that game. But when you can get a new one from Spectra for like $300 or something, it's really not worth it. Fortunately, as I mentioned, I've got one. This was the sending unit that came out of it, and the fuel sock. Pretty cruddy. I tested it. It seems to still work, but it's pretty cruddy. So, like, it's going to go in the bin. Okay, so I got some fuel line. This was 1/2 inch and 5/16, so that's cool. I've got some lunch. Interesting thing, when I went for lunch in my 57 truck, I had a lady get mad at me because she said my truck was a work in progress. And I said, no, it's not. I said, it's done. And she said, oh, I meant the body. And I said, no, it's done. And she's talking about my 57 truck that's kind of rough looking. And she got mad at me about it, which is very odd. Anyways, here's the public service announcement. Don't ever get down on someone's vehicles. If they've got something that they think is cool, just let them think it's cool, and don't bother them about it or insult them on, you know. I had a guy the other day, actually, when I took the Corsa to the gas station, when I put gas in this tank that I just removed. He walked around it and he's like, oh, looks pretty good, except for this spot right here. Well, you know, what does he have? So anyways, my point is, don't ever pick on people for their cars. Just enjoy what you have. Let them enjoy what they have and be happy that they're enjoying it. Chances are they already know about every single imperfection on their own car. That gentleman walking around the gas station pointing out a rust bubble on my Corsa, I already know it's there. I knew it was there when I bought the car. I don't need him to point it out. Anyway, so that's my public service announcement. Stay positive, folks. Don't get down on people for their stuff. Just enjoy what you have. Let them enjoy what they have. It's all good. I've told you guys before that this is one of my least favorite jobs to do on a Corvair. It's not really that hard. It's just annoying. What are your least favorite jobs to do? Corvair guys, what's your least favorite jobs to do on a Corvair? And if you don't have a Corvair, what's your least favorite job to do on your old car? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Curious to see. This isn't probably my least favorite, but it's one of my least favorite. Just because it's fiddly and takes a lot of time. It takes a lot more time than it should on these cars. Where I guess if you did it on like some of the OBS trucks and stuff, you got to pretty much pull the box off to get the gas tank out of that thing. I had S10s and a bunch of S10s, and that was pretty much the deal. You had to pull the box off. Well, you could get it out underneath, but half the time it was just easier to pull the box. Anyways, back at it. I got to get back at it and stop talking. So you guys can watch what I'm doing. Yeah. Today is a new day. Ran into some things I had to do yesterday, so I didn't get to finish this, but I did get the tank in. So I'll show you where I'm at with this. My tools are all assembled. My fuel is still canned. So, what do we got going on here? seem to have some sort of fluid on. Oh, maybe that's a spray. Doesn't really look like fuel. So the new tank is in. This isn't this foam business isn't the prettiest, but you can see it's in. Didn't stick real well. Oh well. The main point is that it's giving insulation to the tank. If you were like looking for something showy, but you cared what your gas tank looked like, what I've done before is cut this foam the width of the strip and put it on the gas tank strap itself. The filler neck connections are connected up top there, which are a pain in the butt to do, mostly through the wheel well. Now what I have to do is, because as I showed you before, I broke all these bolts, because that's what they do. I have to break those, or I have to pop out those broken bolts, get some new bolts, which I have, and replace my sway bar bushings, reinstall my sway bar. This portion will be done. I got to put fuel in the tank as well. Make sure it doesn't leak. The smart thing would be to put fuel in the tank and make sure it doesn't leak before I put the sway bar in. I don't know if I'll do that or not because I'm not that smart. I lengthened my wire for the ground and cleaned up the area in which it grounds and put on some antioxidant on the screw. I've got my connection going here to the positive point. I'm hopeful that my sender works and that my gauge will now work. New fuel line, 5/16. Yeah, so fuel pump obviously is reinstalled. So I think I will carry on with trying to get these bolts out of here, I think. Which shouldn't be that big of a deal. I don't think. They should just pop right out. We'll see. Okay, this is my front sway bar. All 64 to 9 Corvairs have this sway bar, or half sway bar. This bushing's actually not in bad shape. It's got a little tear in it, but I have new ones, and every time I pull this bar, I replace them, because why wouldn't I? So the end ones are easy, they just pop off. Often you'll have to cut them off, but most of the time they just pop off. The broken bolts, I just put a socket on it and they popped right out, no big deal. This has got some sort of corrosion on it, but these slide onto this bar, so I don't think that I will have any luck trying to slide them back off the bar, so it's kind of a wasted effort. So I always just cut them off. Takes a minute. Cut them off, and then usually like a screwdriver or something, and you can just pry them off. Just like that. No time at all. And these are like, I don't know, 20 bucks or 30 bucks or something. It's really not worth not replacing them. So now all the bushings are off. I'm not going to be able to slide these on because this is cruddy, so I need to give it a toothbrush. That's how that goes on, just like that. So now to show you the other one, same thing. Don't put any like channel locks or anything on these. You just shred them. You just have to muscle it on. My gloves are too slippery, so I use a piece of paper towel. There. And now once it's on that straight part, if my alignment's off and I need to slide it a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. The end ones go on pretty easy. Same idea. There's still lots of lubricant on the whatever this thing's called. Sway bar, that's what it's called. So that's the sway bar bushings. So now I need to bolt this guy in place. The outside ones take these half moon things. They just clip in the one side and bolt through the other side. I gotta go get some bolts from the shop side, and I'll put this in. Sway bars installed. So I'm limited on my hardware because I'm not a hardware store. So what worked for me is 5/16 by 3/4 for these inboard clamps, and 5/16 by 1.25" on the outboard. So this is a little long. If I had 1 inch, I would have used 1 inch just for a little aesthetic appearance afterwards. But they have to compress that bushing. So when you undo this to try and get like a smaller bolt, this opens up. So you need this bolt to draw it down, or use a pair of clamps or something. So anyways, it's fine. It's not crazy. It's just a preference thing. Or I'm sure, you know, Clark's or wherever has proper length hardware, but this is all grade 8 bolts that I have in my inventory. So I guess I'm going to put the wheel back on, and pretty presumptuous, put some gas in it, see if it leaks. Hey, did I mention that I don't like this job? I know it's a real simple job. It's not really that hard. But man, I always have trouble with it. Thought I was done. I wasn't done. Why would I be done? So don't be cheap. Don't use used senders. It's a bad idea. I had a bunch of senders here that came in a pile with some car that I bought 100 years ago or whatever. Anyways, I tested them and they all seemed to work. They didn't work. Well, I don't know if all of them didn't work, but the best one out of the bunch that I picked to use in the tank didn't work. I put it all in, put some fuel in it, gauge went over full. So anyways, this is a week later. We had a tornado in my area, which kind of, I had no power for a couple of days. Kyle had no power for 6 days, which is kind of crazy. But anyways, went today and got a sender from a friend. New sender, brand new, stainless steel, Clark sender, the new fuel sock. And installed it, put some fuel in it, everything works. Imagine, it's just new parts. Don't cheap out with the fuel thing. I didn't want to wait for a sender. I can afford a sender. I didn't want to wait for a sender because I was lazy and didn't want to order one. Anyways, it cost me time. So, and it's a crappy job. When you put fuel in your new fuel tank and you have to take it back out of your new fuel tank to put in a new sender because you were an idiot and tried to install some old piece of crap that you thought was okay. Yeah, for $50. Anyway, check this out. Here is my mess. Fuel cans everywhere, fuel everywhere, but, it doesn't leak. You see there's no leakage underneath there. And just so you can get full effect, I'll turn on the headlights. By the way, this thing has LED dash lights, which is pretty cool. Look, the gauge even reads. It works. Imagine that. Pretty cool. So anyways, that's the good news. The good news is the sway bars were installed, the fuel tank is in, and all that crap, and everything works. The fuel gauge works, which is good. I have to continue putting some more fuel in it. I have to change the oil, fix that heater hose that's hanging. Couple little odds and ends, and she's kind of done for the road. So I'll bring you back on another video, and we'll take it for a drive. Show you guys what that's all about. It's a pretty good driving car. Lots of updates coming for the shop. Some news. Some cool updates. So maybe next video, maybe the video after, or something like that. Bought something cool for the shop. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Check out my other videos. Please feel free to subscribe so you can see the updated videos when I post them. It doesn't cost you anything, just lets you know when I post. There's lots of Corvair content, there's lots of other car content, there's lots of just whatever, car stuff. Thanks.